Welcome to another episode of Fret Buzz the podcast. My name is Joe McMurray.
And I'm Aaron Sefchick.
And today we have with us Marcella Dominguez, who is a trademark lawyer, and she's going to talk to us about trademarks and copyrights as they pertain to the music industry. So welcome, Marcella.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. We're thrilled to dig into this topic that a lot of musicians, they don't really understand the details, and I personally have a connection because I applied for a trademark for one of my previous bands and was denied, and felt like I wasted a lot of money. And I'm sure there are people that are interested in doing it and don't know how, and there are probably other people who never thought to even apply for a trademark who probably should.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
We're glad to have you.
Well, thank you so much. And yes, I'm excited to share everything there is to know because you said it perfectly. I think we don't know what we don't know until someone makes us aware. So I'm really glad that you're shedding light on this topic.
Yeah. So do you have musical clients right now?
Yes, I have a couple of clients that have registered the name of their band. And so I'm always really happy and happily impressed when they are initiating these steps toward registering their band's trademark, because hopefully it means that they understand the benefit of having the trademark, and what benefits it confers.
And what are those benefits?
What are those benefits?
Yeah. So everybody has a basic understanding of what trademarks are, if they understand what trademarks are. And that usually is that if I trademark this name, nobody else is going to be allowed to use it. So if I trademark my band name as Metallica, nobody else is going to be able to trademark a name that sounds like Metallica, that looks like Metallica, or that is Metallica. So it's not always the exact same name, but it's something that looks like or also sounds like my name. And only I will be able to use it within a certain category.
Okay.
That's why it was denied. The band was called Albino Rhino, and we tried to trademark our logo. And it was an oval shape, and it had a rhinoceros and some smoke around it and the words. And they said that it was too similar to Rhino Records. I thought was crazy because that's it says Rhino in different lettering with an oval the other way.
Yes.
Had no picture of a rhinoceros, had none of the artistic stuff we had, didn't have a color associated with it, but $300 or whatever it was later. And tons of paperwork, like 50 pages of paperwork, and I just felt like defeated by it.
Yes, and I love that you brought that up, because that is exactly what the problem is the majority of the time when there is an issue. So it's never going to be an issue of someone using the exact same name, right? Nobody's going to be, I don't want to say dumb enough, but I mean, hopefully nobody's going to be dumb enough to register the name Metallica under, musical live performances or entertainment live performances, because they already are aware that Metallica exists, right? But most of the time, there's going to be an issue because it's going to be something similar to. So in your situation, of course, you didn't think there was going to be a problem because it's not the exact same name as maybe this big record company, or even if they're not big, somebody that has been around for quite some time and you just simply weren't aware. But the fact that they are confusingly similar is what poses an issue. So it doesn't have to actually be confusing. It just has to have the potential to be confusingly similar.
So what do you do? Should we have changed our name at that point, or
well, there usually so there are a couple of options. Like once you're at that point, you're kind of at a fork in the road, and you have to ask yourself, how badly do I want to keep this name? And how badly do I want to invest my financial resources? Because I don't know what financial position you're in. But if you've decided that you want to invest and you really want to keep this name, then what a lawyer can do is they can draft arguments in support of a registration. And the trademark examiner has to be convinced by these arguments that your mark is not confusingly similar to the cited marks in your office action. And sometimes it could just be one-sided mark, which it sounds like was the case for you. And sometimes it could be a number of marks. But our job is to use case law to say, you know what? His mark is not going to be confusingly similar because of a variety of reasons, including the fact that, there are lots of other marks that sound like his that have been in existence for a long period of time. Therefore, they can coexist without confusion in the marketplace. Or it could be simply that you guys have different spellings, you have different logos, there are different colors, some things that you already touched on, and then a variety of other things that case law presents. But a well-drafted argument might, in some cases, change the trademark examiner's mind and convince them that yours is worthy of registration.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to invest extra money in that.
Yeah. I mean, it depends what kind of arrangement you've already worked out for your trademark application. But most of the time, drafting these types of arguments does require a small investment, because it takes time to draft these arguments. I mean, it's not something you can just whip up in 5 minutes. I mean, maybe, but most of the time it takes a little bit longer than 5 minutes.
I guess if you've got a following, you've built a following, and you've released albums and stuff, that it is probably much cheaper to hire a trademark lawyer than to start all over.
Yes, that's right. Most of the time, people who choose to move forward are people who have already invested in brand promotion, whether that means advertising materials, products, or, in this case, lots of musical performances already, brand merchandise, anything like that. But, there are some people who are just starting out that just really love their name, and they're so passionate about it because they took the time to think about it. They have an emotional connection to it, and really they can't stand, and I don't blame them. They can't stand, someone else having that name or using that name or being told no.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the idea of why do you even need to trademark it in the first place? We were denied, and then we just continued playing as a band, releasing music for years, and we never actually dealt with any consequences of not having it. But that being said, we never made it big. So as a lower level, if you're not trying to be Katy Perry famous, is there actually, what are the benefits if you're just playing gigs around town, making a living but not getting famous, or not making a living, just doing it for fun?
There are some people that say, I am not big. I don't plan on being big. I don't need one, Right. But the fact of the matter is that if you, there are a number of reasons why, but if you really want to be recognized or have that validation from the marketplace, I think that having a registered trademark definitely asserts some kind of position that maybe other brands who are not registered don't have. So, for example, when you think of brands like any major brand like Toyota, Puma, Mercedes, BMW, Adidas, those guitars behind you, I'm sure each has a registered trademark.
Yep.
You look at those and you think of something when you look at that brand. It conjures something in your mind like, I respect this brand. I trust this brand. This brand has been around for a really long time. And most of the time, when you want to solidify that prestige in the mind of your consumers, having a registered trademark, I think, solidifies that relationship without you even knowing it. You trust these brands in the marketplace, and the extra step that they've taken is to protect that brand so that somebody can't step in and steal that relationship. It's not just the brand name that they're stealing, but it's also the relationship that they have built with their consumers that would be stolen as well. Imagine if somebody else just started putting Adidas on their t-shirts. You know, you wouldn't know which is the real Adidas from the fake Adidas unless it was for that registered trademark symbol. But that registered trademark symbol, now in your mind, you're like, oh, okay, that's the one that I've been going to. That's the one that I've known for all these years. And without it, if somebody else used it, well, Adidas would be pissed, but then you would also be confused. And maybe you wouldn't even be receiving the same quality from this non-registered Adidas brand. So it does a lot from the perspective of the trademark holder, and it does a lot also from the perspective of the consumer, you know? So I hope that kind of helped you understand what it is.
I think with a trademark, I think, yes, it does command a bit of, I think when you are ready to make that step into trademarking your brand, it does incorporate this professionalism into your brand.
Yes.
You're ready to take it up to that next step. I think also what it does is it protects you from others maybe infringing on what you have already built. I know within the podcasting forums, I've seen quite a few people post about, hey, we may not be all that big, but I did notice that there is another podcast who is calling themselves the same thing as us. Now, with a trademark, you actually have the ability now to send out a cease and desist letter saying, hey, we own this. You need to back off. So it does kind of give you that authority as well, which is nice to have, because you own your brand now that you've gone through the process of building this empire that you have, whether it be small or big. You own it and nobody else can touch it, which is really nice.
Yes, and I think that you vocalized everything I said much better than I just did.
I don't know about that.
No, but yes, you translated what I was saying perfectly. I mean, authority was the main word that came to mind.
So back to my experience with Albino Rhino, there was actually a part of the reason we were trying to get it is because this is like 2 years into the band, and having played a lot of shows, we realized that there was a Finnish or a Swedish Albino Rhino doom metal band, totally different kind of music than our like funk, blues, rock, jazz, whatever. It changed the music, but they actually emailed us saying we should change our name, and we were like, who are these people? Like, we've been around for a long time, still don't know which band came first, but we're like, I'm gonna trademark this so we have the legal upper hand, was my thinking. That being said, they weren't even in the United States. So does your trademark with the United States Copyright Office protect you outside of the United States?
That's a really good question. And so actually it kind of circles back to what I wanted to comment to what he said just before you asked this question. And that's that you don't have to have a registered trademark in order to send a cease and desist letter. But now back to what you said, you felt like you were getting the upper hand, right? I mean, you can use a registered trademark as a little bit of leverage. It doesn't really sound too great if you send a cease and desist letter and you don't have a registered trademark, though brands do it because they feel like, you know what, I've been around for a really long time. I have common law rights in the name. And I've been selling all across the United States. My music is heard all across the United States and all across the world. So then that's where people feel like, okay, my common law rights have extended beyond the geographical territory where I started. And that's probably why, if they didn't have a registered trademark, felt like they could send you a cease and desist letter because their common law rights had now extended beyond the area where they started. My music is heard worldwide. I have a right to use this name worldwide. And so I'm going to send them a cease and desist letter to stop. Now, when you have a registered trademark, you don't have to rely on those common law rights and whether or not you have been actually meeting the definition of use beyond the geographical area where you started. Does that make sense? So a registered trademark just kind of takes the place of all that. It takes the place of, do I meet the definition? Have I met the criteria? Have I extended? Let's forget about that. A registered trademark tells me I can use it in the United States. So, so I don't have to worry about common law rights and meeting the definition. So in your situation, if they are in another country and their music has permeated through the US, I'm assuming they were now relying on that if they didn't have a registered trademark to tell you to stop using the name. And so common law rights is another can of worms, you know, which raises a whole nother set of issues, as always, with the law. Like, how long have they been using in the US? Where have they been selling their music? How many listeners do they have? You know, how exactly does their reach, how deep is their reach? How broad is their reach? And, you know, these are questions, like I said, that just become so technical almost, that if you just want to avoid this, I think it's better to have a registered trademark. And having the registered trademark would just say, you know what, I've registered in the US, and you still have to prove use though, even with the registered trademark. But, you know, it becomes like we were talking about, you kind of have the upper hand, you know, you don't have to get as, I think, to put it simply, people won't badger you as hard with the registered trademark, though they will require you to prove use. There's some implicit understandings with the registered trademark.
So now I perform solo the majority of the time, and so it says Joe McMurray Music. I'm on the schedule as Joe McMurray. That's my name. It's not like a name I made up. It's literally my name. Do I need, like, there are a couple, when I search, I've searched to see, you know, test out my search engine optimization and that sort of thing. I go to Google and type my name in. There are other Joe McMurrays in the world. There's another musician, Joe McMurray. There's a drummer. What is, I mean, can somebody trademark their name? And if so, like, what would the other Joe McMurray, what's he supposed to do? It's his name. It's legally his name.
Yeah. So that's a great question also. You know, in order to register your name, you should have some sort of, and I'm putting this in total layman's terms, right? Like, you need to have, like, people need to have some kind of understanding of who you are. I mean, I can't just go and register my name. You probably can go and just register your name, but Kim Kardashian can go and do that. Madonna can go and do that. You know, Bono can go and do that. I mean, these people who, when you say their name and people automatically know who they are, can go and do that. Because people understand who they are, where they come from, what they offer. There's a connection between the name and the market offering. But with us, that's not necessarily so. So once you get to that point, you know, of notoriety, so to speak, it becomes easier to trademark your name. But up until that point, you should probably attach something else to your name that would allow people to not necessarily just judge or that would allow the trademark examiner to judge your mark based on not solely your name, but on some other kind of factor, like adding lectures or a podcast at the end, or whatever it is that you're, his band, like Joe's band, or I don't know, something else.
Right.
A Fret Buzz podcast.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Exactly.
Yeah. Something that differentiates you from somebody else. That's the descriptor almost.
Right. Something that's attached to your name that makes it so that you're not solely relying on the person's name for the registration.
Joe, when you hit Madonna status, you let me know, okay?
Well, I'm less interested in trying to trademark my name, but more interested in making sure that nobody can, like, tell me to stop using my name. Like, that was what would worry me, if that was a possibility, that somebody could, like, send me a cease and desist, like, you can't market yourself as Joe McMurray.
It's less likely to happen unless your name is Kim Kardashian too.
Yeah. That'd be, so any parents out there, don't name your child after stars, because then they could actually run into problems.
Yes.
That's funny.
So yeah, maybe we need to think about this with Fret Buzz the podcast.
Yeah, I have been. I'm
We
thinking.
might need to trademark this.
Yeah.
Fret Buzz the podcast. I think that's unique.
Yeah.
I think it's unique. I don't think it's totally. I mean, granted, it does use words that individually and separately are found in the English dictionary.
Mhm.
I don't think that it would be descriptive.
Well, fret buzz it's a problem with your guitar. It's like
is it?
a common when your action is too low. When the strings are too low, it'll actually make a buzzing sound. But so what we like about it is that usually we do this a little bit earlier in the morning and we drink coffee and we get a coffee buzz going while we talk about technical musical things. And
yeah, well, buzz is this, another word for talking and chatting, just like
right.
BuzzFeed and all these other places out there talking about buzz. It's the chatter. So basically we came up with it as, music talk, basically. When I first searched out fret buzz, the two words, there were plenty of other people out there using the words fret buzz. So I figured because it was a podcast, we'll just tag the words the podcast on the end, and that'll kind of single us out a little bit better. And it seems to have worked.
Yeah, I think that, yes, you're right. Like buzz does infer a lot of things, but I don't know if the trademark examiner would say, okay, fret buzz actually means, and then what you just described it means about the guitar on the strings. And but if they did do that, it would be a good thing, because it doesn't necessarily describe the podcast. Like, you're not talking about that. You're not talking about the strings when they have a problem and how that affects the sound. That would be considered descriptive. Like if you had a podcast about the definition of fret buzz, does that make sense? That would be considered descriptive, but that's not what your podcast really is. It's about music generally. So then I would say it's not, they probably wouldn't consider it descriptive, which is a good thing, because then you avoid that descriptive issue. I mean, there's a number, I'm sorry, I always come on these podcasts with the intention of saying, okay, I'm going to make this as simple as possible. How do you not make this complicated? And then I listen to myself and I say, oh, I don't think you did that at all.
Well, it's trademark and copyright are, they have been forever, for a long time, decades now. They're this mysterious thing that nobody really understands. I mean, even the podcast communities, week after month after year, it's always brought up over and over again about copyright and trademarking, and it just seems to be this elusive thing that is always there.
Yeah. And I always tell myself, like, I guess I don't find it that elusive now, because, I deal with it all the time, and I really like it because I get to connect with creatives who kind of have to think about it.
Yeah.
But it's really not that bad. It's not that bad once you have like this rundown of how it's supposed to work. And if you know that at least a trademark is supposed to protect your name, a slogan, a business name, a sound, and a copyright, protects, like paintings, photographs, poems, lyrics, that sort of thing, then if you can draw that line of separation, I think you're already ahead of most people. So, and then you took it a step further by telling me that you had already applied for a trademark, which I did not know. So then you're already a little bit well-versed on the topics of what could go wrong with your trademark application.
Yeah.
So, and then you brought in the title of your podcast, analyzing that, and now you understand like what it means to have a descriptive title, which now you don't necessarily do. So that's good. So I think those are the two biggest problems that could go wrong with a trademark that we've already covered. So the rest are, if you have an attorney, or even if you've done this enough times, like you could probably overcome those issues in a simple, straightforward manner.
Okay.
Brought up the word, the idea of copyright. And I know for years, I've talked to quite a few artists when it comes to copyright, and I'm a little bit older, so there was this method where we used to record a song
Mhm.
and then send it in the mail to ourselves, and then just never open the package. And
Yeah.
that was enough in court to hold up the fact that I wrote the song first. Um, what For musicians out there in terms of copywriting their songs, what would you suggest? Because I know that for a lot of people, especially nowadays, because people ripping each other off on YouTube all the time, they're just lifting samples and putting it into other people's songs. It happens all the time. For those that may not have a lot of money and
Mhm.
they are looking to protect their music, what would you suggest their plan of action be?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. Um, all of it always is going to boil down to proof, right?
Right.
Proof and evidence. That's all law cares about, really. Is show me the proof and I'll tell you the answer.
Okay.
And so what you just explained was like a way of providing some kind of evidence that, you wrote it, but the proof was in the date, the stamp,
Right.
right? The proof is not necessarily in the actual pudding, which would be the lyrics, or whatever it is that you wrote.
Right.
The proof would be in that, well, not proof, but the evidence would be in that stamp.
Mhm.
Like this is the day that I sent it to myself. And so this is the earliest date that we can use to recognize that this document was in existence.
Right.
But it's obviously, you don't hear lawyers saying, go do that.
Right.
And so, I think that just having any kind of backup that you can have, like simply put, any kind of evidence, whether that means that you've been journaling, if you journal your music, which some musicians do, or if you just have like some artists have a sketchbook. Yeah, see, like some artists have a sketchbook, like that taken as a whole shows that this is a journey for you, something that you've been doing for a while. It's not just something that you did one time and then you mailed it to yourself one time.
Right.
You know what I mean? What else can be proof?
What about like for me, I record on my phone. I have the little recording app.
Yes.
What's it called?
Voice memo.
Voice memos. Yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
record myself in order to remember what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have like literally I can follow the song being created. Here's when I only had the first verse, and here's a couple days later when it's morphed into this. Would that be evidence enough?
Yes. And what I was gonna say, and what better way than even that, because your iPhone or whatever it is that you're using to record it registers the date and time that it like goes into your phone. So I mean, you can't argue with that. You can't really alter the dates of those things. So all of these things taken as a whole is what helps bolster your case. I think the more things that you can have to support the fact that you did write it, and you've evidenced that on paper, through audio, through video, even conversations with friends, though that's not as strong by itself. Like I said, all of these things taken as a whole, I think, are the best ways to support, what you wrote and when you wrote it.
It seems like you would never know if you were being ripped off the majority of the time. Like if you put something up, if you recorded a song, put it on YouTube, likelihood is that you'll never even know that somebody pulled your music and put it with their video.
Yeah, and that's so funny because I think that too, even as a lawyer, like I think, how would you ever know if somebody copied your product unless they became really successful or happened to cross paths with yours? How would you know if somebody ever copied your website? How would you know? You wouldn't know unless someone brought it up to you or they became so popular that it came to your attention. But it doesn't mean that you stop creating. I mean, you still should go out and be innovative, take whatever measures you can to protect what you do have, what you have created. And that's why you're listening to podcast episodes like this, to at least have some little bits of information about how you're going to protect what you've created. If you don't, just like we explained right now, you don't have to have money. And I'm pretty sure that you already have an iPhone. Somehow people who don't have money still have an iPhone, which is fine. So go use it, use it. Use the voice recording, the voice memo thing. A journal isn't expensive. You could use like a yellow pad, so cheap. So there's ways. This podcast is free. Nobody has to pay to listen to it. So the whole point is, are you looking for ways to protect it? Or are you ignoring those ways so badly that you're almost asking to be ripped off instead?
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice.
Yeah.
What about, I feel like a lot of people, my understanding of song copyright, you can copyright a melody and lyrics, obviously, but you can't copyright the harmony, correct? You can't copyright the chord progression. Do either of you guys know?
Yeah, you can't copyright chord progressions.
Cannot, because there's only so many chord progressions.
Right, correct. But
I mean,
melody, you can.
A million songs that use a G, D, E minor, C.
You're probably going to be able to give a more precise answer than even me, because to be honest, I do copyright registrations less so. But I was going to say no right off the bat anyway, because there are certain elections that you have to make when you're registering a copyright. And everything you just said is not one of them. So like, you can't get that precise. Like, it's the lyrics, and is this a sound recording, or is it the lyrics, or are you doing both type thing? So,
So you copyright the sound recording, the actual physical recording of the song.
Yes.
Rather than the lyrics could be, you could record multiple different tracks with those lyrics.
Yeah. So you can register the copyright whichever way you want, whether it's the sound recording, the lyrics, or it's not melody, it's I can't think right now what the third thing is. But so you can pick which one you want to register. But it doesn't get as deep as like what you were just describing or asking.
I guess why I brought it up, what I was thinking of especially was the Blurred Lines controversy lawsuit that happened a couple years ago.
Oh yeah. With who was it with again? I do remember because I posted it on my Instagram.
Yeah, it was lawsuit. Who was it? It was one of the Motown guys. It was Marvin Gaye. Yeah.
Yes.
Against Pharrell Williams and Robin Thicke.
Yep.
Yes, I remember at the time I was reading that article, but I can't remember what the outcome was. But now I want to know, so I'm gonna Google it really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always come up from time to time, whether it's Led Zeppelin or whether it's, I know Chili Peppers ran into one. I know Tom Petty ran into one. I know Joe Satriani's run into it. It happens so much, and it's hard. It's a hard road to kind of go down, because as the music market is more and more saturated, it's very hard to find the uniqueness behind, even with like I said, with Tom Petty and Mary Jane's Last Dance and Red Hot Chili Peppers with the same chord progression.
That A minor, G, D, A minor.
Yeah. It's
I didn't realize that.
It's hard. It's
Yeah, so in that case, yeah. So there was a judgment against Robin Thicke in favor of Marvin Gaye's estate for $7.3 million.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it happens even now, like when you listen to songs on the radio, don't you think? And it sounds just like something else that we've heard in the past.
Oh, yeah.
You think of that, and then, but not everybody goes around suing each other. And sometimes it just, like, if I was a musician, I would think, man, that sucks, But I mean, if I was in Marvin Gaye's shoes or his relatives, I mean, I could understand, like such an iconic musician, years of hard work. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I always, I don't know how I'd feel actually in that moment. And I don't think any of us would unless we were actually in that situation, because sometimes it's easy to say, you know what, just let it slide. They probably didn't do it on purpose. It's just the way the game works, the way the game is played. But then other times you do wonder, like, okay, was any of it on purpose? Like, how much did they take that little piece and then like mix it around, spin it around so that it was different enough that it sounds just in like an inspiration from and not the exact same thing from.
Right.
So you never know. I don't know how I'd feel. How would you guys feel?
If you were if you were being sued, or if you were the one that saw somebody ripped your music off?
Yeah, someone took your stuff.
I guess it would be frustrating. I would, it might be you'd get so much publicity from, maybe hopefully people would go and listen to your original song if you brought it up, which might be worth more than anything, even if you didn't win the lawsuit.
I think for me, it would probably depend on how successful I was. If I were, small time and I found that some big artist ripped me off, of course I would want to be compensated. Just because that's my stuff and you're making lots of money off of it, and I never got that opportunity. Versus the other way around, I think my personality is that, I would probably have an open mind and saying, look, I'm a big star and my music's out everywhere. Of course it's going to influence people. If it's a blatant ripoff, then I might challenge it and I might try to see what the rest of their album sounds like and see if they've pulled more from me or other artists. But I mean, like I said, there's so much music out there. It's hard not to be influenced by somebody.
Right. I agree with you. Yeah, I like that perspective actually. And I thought you were actually going to say the opposite. I thought you were going to say if you were small time, you wouldn't be upset. And if you were big time, you would be upset.
Oh, no, quite the opposite.
Yeah. So that's good, because it actually reminded me of a story about Zara that I heard a couple months ago. There are graphic designers who post their stuff all the time. And so some designer posted something on Instagram. I'm not sure if you guys heard the story. And then Zara took that design and then they put it on one of their jean shorts or something like that. And then, but I think that designer did like bring it up. They brought it up. I don't know what the outcome of it was, but if you Google it, there's an article about it. Yeah. And so I, in that situation, I mean, I could understand, these people are working for, for a pretty penny, just trying to hustle and grind. And then some big company just kind of comes and takes their idea. So, I mean, like, I think they should be compensated. But of course, I'm sure that's what Zara's position was, is that, it was just inspiration and not, not the exact same design.
Yeah. And the other problem is that the bigger corporations, they have the money to fight this, and they know that, if they lift it from somebody,
chances are they're gonna get away with it.
Yeah, chances are.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I hate to admit and I hate to put it that way, but it's absolutely true. And even Robin Thicke, like when he was writing that song, like maybe who knows, like to this day, sure, like the court has said, okay, it sounds too similar to, like, you copyright infringe. But to this day, we don't really know, like, okay, did they do it on purpose or did they not do it on purpose?
Right.
But even if they did do it on purpose, like maybe even if he thought about what would happen in the event that he was caught for copyright infringement, like the loss is just so minimal compared to the, like what you were describing, like the fame and the notoriety and the attention and the press that he got from this issue, that it made him so much more than the 7.5 or 3 that he had to pay.
That's exactly right.
It's a game. It's a game. Like I said, it's all a game.
Yeah. Right now, there's a big thing about, I mean, this is not important, but I guess they made a new movie from an old video game called Sonic. And there's an idea that the movie studios purposely put out this terrible trailer and knew everybody would be outraged by the trailer because they knew it would be, it would bring them publicity.
Yes. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And they've already made the movie the way it's supposed to be, but they've purposely released a terrible trailer just because they wanted the community to kind of build this movie up. And it's just like, oh wow, the ways people are trying to promote their material these days is rather interesting.
Gotta get creative.
Yep, marketing. You know, the things people will do for marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So watch out, guys.
I want to go back to the idea of like if they purposefully ripped off the bass line in the Blurred Line song. Like I think about I have my musical influences, and when you're playing something, sometimes you really do. You'll play you'll come up with a melody, and then you'll be like, oh wait a minute, I think that's from a song. Like you might not have heard that song for like years, but they're only 12 notes. I mean, you can go different octaves, but there are only so many possibilities and combinations that unless you're getting into like, you know, more complex jazz and classical music, if you're in kind of simpler pop and rock music, you can accidentally rewrite something that you've just heard a long time ago. Like it just kind of comes out of you.
Yes, that's right. And so, you know, back to the Robin Thicke example. So, you know, we will never know. We will just never know. People might do it accidentally and people might do it purposefully, but it's, you know, it doesn't really matter, I guess, too much. It matters. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but it doesn't matter too much for the purposes of finding copyright infringement.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, we want to be respectful of your time. Before we close out, I do, in terms of trademark, and that whole package for our listeners, just so they can kind of get a little bit of an idea of costs. How much ballpark idea of money are we talking in terms of trying to brand your name?
Yeah. So if you're trying to register your trademark, I think you can, you know, like most lawyers will charge somewhere between like $600 to like $1,000, mid 1,000.
Okay.
You say mid 1,000 or maybe 1,000?
No, mid 1,000.
Mid 1,000.
Like some will go 1,800, some will go 1,500. I've heard of some that will go up to like 2,000, but that includes everything. So I think it just depends like what it is that you're willing to pay for. Like, are you paying for office actions in advance? Are you including the USPTO fee? Are you, you know, how involved are you going to be in the process? There are clients that want to be super involved. They want notices and updates all the time. And then there are clients that, you know, just say, call me with the good news. And so it just depends on all those things.
Okay.
What does it cost if you were to go? I can't remember what I paid exactly, but if you just go, you can go to the like copyright.gov, right?
Yeah, so copyright.gov is for registering a copyright. But if you're registering a trademark, you're going to go to uspto.gov.
Okay. And you can do that on your own, correct? Like I tried.
Yeah, you can do it on your own. So the fees for just doing it on your own is, of course, just your time, and then the application fee, which is $275 per category. So if you're gonna have more than one category, then you need to multiply that $275 by however many you have. But yeah, you can do it on your own, and I would just say that as a word of caution, be very careful about what category you choose, because that is one of the most important designations that you will make. Once you have selected it, it's very hard to change it. You can only really narrow it after that. You can't really broaden it. And the next piece of advice I would say is make sure that the drawing or the word mark that you submit is also exactly what you want to protect. Because once you submit that, there is no turning back. You would have to start a brand new application. So like, you have to be even more careful about that than the category designation, because the category designation, at least you can narrow, but with the drawing or the word mark that you submit, there is no changing it.
Okay.
Can you go to this category idea? What are a couple categories you might register your trademark as?
I was going to ask, because I know for musicians, there is this pull between music and entertainment. And which one do I pick?
Yeah. So most of the ones that I've seen are usually fall in both or either of those, and also merchandise. So like they'll choose entertainment services in the nature of live performances. They'll also choose like CD recordings, CD audio visual recordings. They'll choose like I said, merchandise, so clothing like sweatshirts, hoodies, hats. But usually when you type in the word like audio or recordings, you're going to see a tremendous list of things that pop up. And then you can select the ones that sound most appropriate to what you are. But generally speaking, that's like, if you're an entertainer, a performer, a musician, generally speaking, those are going to be applicable to you.
And just out of curiosity, for a podcast, how would that work?
Oh, wow. So a podcast, I would say entertainment services probably, but obviously not in the nature of a live performance unless it is live. And it wouldn't be a performance. And also an audio recording. And also, what I suggest too is like, if you're kind of sketchy on what exactly you want to register, a good way to find out is like type in the name of your favorite podcast that has a registered trademark, and kind of play around with the descriptions that those people have used. So, sometimes you can use that as inspiration to tailor it to whatever it is that you're offering. Sometimes it might not be the exact same thing because maybe you offer a little bit more or a little bit less than what they do, but you can get an idea based on what theirs says.
Can you actually look up whether it's like Joe Rogan or something, like on the USPTO website, and you can see what he's registered there?
Yeah, you definitely can. You can. I'm going to do that right now real quick with you guys just because I want you to see. So if you just look up Joe Rogan podcast trademark, then you will get, you can either do it through Google or you can do it through TESS, which is TESS, the number 2.uspto.gov. And then you're going to do a basic word mark search. I don't know. Yeah, you probably can't.
It's not focused. Oh, there it is. tmsearch.uspto.gov.
And then in the search term box, like I'm just going to type in Joe Rogan. I'm not even going to put in podcast. I'm going to see what it says. Oh, there's nothing.
No test records. Okay.
Yeah. So, but then now I'm going to delete that. And then I'm just going to type in the word podcast. And then, look at all of these results for people who have registered a podcast, the name of a podcast. And so it's going to say, do you notice, can you see where it says live? Right there, it'll say live or dead. So you kind of want to pay attention to the ones that say live. So the Boss Up podcast, for example, registered in entertainment services, namely providing podcasts in the nature of interviews and other original works, which describe and inspire modern female CEOs. So that's the part that I was talking about, like entertainment services. Yes, that's generally applicable to podcasts, to entertainers. But the part that's going to be tailored to you specifically is the part after namely. So it's going to depend on what it is that you're offering in your podcast, or maybe what type of musical performances you offer, So like Tony Robbins isn't going to be the same thing as like Metallica. Metallica is not going to be the same thing as like an interview style podcast like yours.
Right.
Wow. This is really helpful.
Yeah.
Great.
Hands-on stuff. Glad we did this.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions at all, of course, I'm sure you already know, you guys can reach out to me. I try to make myself pretty accessible on social media and on podcasts like these. So, you can go to marcellatm.com, find me on Instagram as Arts Music Lawyer, Facebook Arts Music Lawyer, or just type in my name, Marcella Dominguez, somewhere on iTunes or somewhere in the virtual world, and my information will pop up.
Awesome.
How do you spell your website again? Like, can you spell
Marcella,
it out?
Yeah. It's MarcellaTM for trademark.com.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
If people want to get in contact with you, is there a way for them to do that through your website?
Yep, I do have a contact page there, or they can just message me on any one of the social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, IG.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, it's gonna be your turn to be on mine.
Awesome.
Yeah. And you've been a fun personality to have on the show. You're actually our first female guest, which we didn't intend on doing at all, but we were like, finally, we needed this.
You know what? And that's really great to hear on Mother's Day weekend. Like, there is nothing more pivotal that I could say to my daughter than you can be the first female guest on a podcast if you push.
That's right.
Yeah. And we have more in the future. We're working out. We've got the dean of George Mason's jazz department is supposed to come on at some point.
Yep.
So we're trying to get more ladies on the show.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
If there are any lady listeners out there that think they have something to offer on the show, please reach out to us.
Yeah.
If there's anybody at all, guys or anybody, please contact us if you think that you might be a good fit as a co-host. If you think you have a interesting angle or an interesting story, anything music related, we'd love to have you for you to reach out.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Marcella. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great
You
week.
as well.
Bye.
Bye.